Sup gamers, today I'm going to be showing you exactly how to fix the D-pad button, the ABXY buttons, and the shoulder buttons, L and R, on the Nintendo DS Lite. This also applies to L and R buttons on the DSi or any other DS for that matter. You only need a Y screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver, and a pointy tool that you can use to scrape or simply sandpaper. The grit doesn't really matter. You'll also need these if you're using the shoulder buttons. You do not need one of these tools, tweezers, if you are not fixing the shoulder buttons. But if you do have tweezers and if you don't have sandpaper, then you can also use them instead to fix the ABXY and DPAD buttons. I'll show you exactly how. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna open the device. We can see this DS is extremely dirty. That's definitely looking a lot better than what it was. So let me demonstrate what exactly this DS is doing. The L shoulder button doesn't work. If we hit it, okay, all right. On this screen, if we click any button, it should go to the next screen. As we see though, hitting the A button, hit the B button, Y, X, it's not doing anything. These buttons are really bad. And the L button, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we're gonna go in there and I'm gonna show you exactly how to clean that too so that this works in the future. The first thing that we're gonna do, you gotta pop off these two rubber pads right here. You can use your pointy tool for that, or if they're, you can just use a nail too if you get enough leverage. Then I like to take the battery door off, and then the battery out. Alright, and then we got 4 Phillips screws right here, and then 4 Y screws right here. Alrighty, once you got all the screws out, open from here, and then I like to get my fingernails in between there, and then run them along the console while lifting up, and you should just be able to lift it up just like that. So for some reason, the shoulder button came up. That never ever happens, probably because this DS is so dang dirty. So I'm just gonna put that back in there for now, just so I can demonstrate. So this is what you'll be left with. To take the shoulder buttons out, pick them up by there. It'll snap that spring out. Same with this one. And then you can grab it by the spring and the metal rod in there, and they should lift right out. So now, this DS had the bad L button. This is the L button here. So what we want to do, we want to take pointy, precise tweezers. You want to get it right between here. This right here is an opening for the shoulder button, and same for this side. So once you get both open like that, don't go too far. But once you do that, you can stick in the tool right here and then pry up. That'll take some force, but do not overdo it. You only want to bring it out a little bit. Otherwise, these metal brackets can snap off, and while it's not the end of the world, sometimes they require to be soldered back into place. And then once you do that, it reveals this membrane and then that pad. They were in there, so I hit them out just like that to get them out easier. So now you want to take your metal tweezers or tool and brush it inside of here a good bit. So what this does is this is scraping off all of the grime on the inside of the shoulder button, making it not work. So after you do this, you might see some scratches, but it should be shiny. Nice and shiny just like that. Now you basically want to do the same thing for this thing right here, but you want to be a lot more careful for this because this is what makes the shoulder button click. So if you push down too hard, if you scrape it too hard, then it might bend in a specific area and not click anymore. And if it doesn't click, 1, that's not good because you don't feel it click anymore. But 2, sometimes it even makes the button not work anymore. But as long as you hold it in place and just go over it pretty gently, you should be a-okay. So that's good. You don't need to get the one side that you were holding it down on. So now I like to grab it with metallic bit, and I hold it. These are magnetic free tweezers. If you do not have these, then you can try to get it on your finger, and then from your finger into here. But once that's done, you can just set it back into place. Bam. And then you can click it. See how it's still clicking? So that is fantastic. I also have to drop this rubber membrane back into place. I like to click it as well. And then once you're done with that, you can close this metal flap just like that. And so now you'll want to pinch it on both sides to close it. It's going to want to bow very, very, very slightly upward right here, but that is normal and that is okay. So now, if we click it, still very nice and clicky, and it's going to work perfectly. We want to continue with the disassembly. All we need to do is remove this one screw right here, and then you'll be good as far as disassembly. That's as much as you need to do. So I like to open the DS like this. I like to get my fingers on the bottom screen, and I push up while holding the board with that hand, just so that I don't push it too far up. And then it should come out. Okay, so we can very clearly see why these buttons weren't working. You can see these D-pad contacts are very grimy. Same for ABX and Y. But first, let's take out these button rubbers and see what's underneath them. Yeah, look. That's just disgusting. So this DS was very, very dirty. Sometimes dirt can cause them. Dirt between the membranes can cause them to not click correctly. So maybe we don't even need new button membranes. If this is the case for you, that's awesome. Now is when you can test the rubbers. So I'm actually gonna clean the rubbers as well so that we can actually test them to see if they need replaced or not. If you're doing this on your DS and if your buttons are mushy, then I would 100% recommend to buy replacement pads. They're pretty dang cheap. So yes, this does not click at all. And so we can see that should not happen. That should be solid. I don't know why my camera doesn't like to focus. And that is clicking just fine. So I'm going to reuse this D-pad, but this ABXY pad, bad. So now here's a new one. Well, it's not new, it's used, but new to me. And this one clicks beautifully. So, okay, so now what do we want to do? We want to get these all cleaned off. So there's two different methods. Okay. So there's two different methods that I mentioned before. You can use sandpaper or just your sharp tool. So what I'm gonna show you how to use the sharp tool first, just in case you don't have sandpaper. You may want to unplug the top screen ribbon cable, because if you're holding this and if you're focusing on sanding or scraping or doing anything, you might be holding the board pretty tightly, and then you can very easily move the board that way too much or this way too much, resulting in the top screen cable to be bent or creased or torn anyway. So if you do want to do that, then you can just get your thumbnail underneath the flap there, and then that'll open the flap, and then put your thumbnail here just to hold the top screen cable in place and pull. That will save the top screen, then you won't need to worry about it. So first you can just literally scrape it like this. As you can see, that already got a lot of the grime off, but you want to keep on scraping. Just keep on scraping. You cannot overdo this. Keep it to the golden pad, the golden contact pad. So now this, I can guarantee you, will work okay, but I like to do it more than this. So now I'm going to do it in the opposite pattern for a little while. Okay, so now we can see how shiny that is compared to the other ones. So now let's clean it off. I use Dawn water. So now that's looking fantastic. So now let me show you how you can use sandpaper. I like to wrap it around my pointer finger so I have the best control, and then I just clean it like that. And that's good. Again, you don't need to worry about overdoing this. Alright, and then you can clean it right off. So now, you can continue to use your sandpaper, or if you have your scrape tool, you can just scrape. I'm going to demonstrate the scrape tool one more time just to show you guys that it does indeed work. So let me clean this A button here. Sometimes it can take a lot of scraping, so just be patient if you're doing it this way. Looks good to me, so let's give it a little clean. And yeah, that looks awesome. So the method that I like to use, I've fixed on a couple thousand of these guys at this point. It's my job. I like to use a Dremel with a rounded sanding bit. It's very quick and easy, so I like to do a mid setting, fire it up, and then just real quick go over them just like that. So as we can see, Dremel did a very, very good job. It did so much more than the scraper did in that amount of time, effortlessly. Sandpaper, you can also see it did more, but that will be perfectly fine for the scraper. So now, after you have done that, you are going to want to clean off the black contacts of the button membranes. These are what wear off and add grime to the golden contacts over time to make them not work. Doing this will remove any residual grime, and it will make them basically like new. Even if you get brand new ones, even if you get replacements, I would still do this. Okay, so now I can put them back in place. Get our top screen cable plugged back in. Again, you do not need to do that, but for safety measures, it's a smart thing to do. I have broken a couple top screens by simply trying to fix buttons, so it is definitely a smart thing to do. And now you can close your DS back on place. The only tricky thing might be the mega cable. So 9 times out of 10, it's just going to seat itself again correctly, but sometimes you'll want to put your pointer finger in there to make sure it's in that little slot while you put it over where it's supposed to be. So while assembly, if you need to, if you're having a little bit of a difficult time with that, then watch these 2 screw posts. That should be a nice guide for you when you're putting the board back into place. I'm going to get these 2 screws in. I'm going to get the shoulder buttons on place. I'm going to put this bottom plate back on, and then we will test. To get the shoulder buttons back in place, I like to grab them again by the rod and the spring to make sure they do not fall out. And then I put the DS this way for this button. I like to put the rod in its place, and then I just like to set the spring in its place. Be careful because it's spring loaded. You don't want that spring to unload and then hurt you. Can happen sometimes. So do the same thing for this. And let me actually demonstrate the spring. So if this is why I like to keep my fingers right here and absolutely not here for while you lift it up, because if you put your fingers here while you lift it up, then that spring is just gonna come right back. It's gonna whip around, and it actually like pinches you really bad. So let me just try to demonstrate that. So if you try to pick it up by here, yeah, that hurts. You don't want to do that. So do it like I showed you to. Will make life a lot less painful. Alrighty, so once you're ready to put the bottom plate back on, I like to hold it this way. Make sure the volume switch is all the way down to the right, and make sure the power switch is also all the way down. It needs to be all the way down like that. Not like this, not like that, but all the way down. Otherwise, it can clamp on top of this little power switch nub right there, rendering your whole DS pretty much useless. You don't want to do that. And make sure the volume slider on the DS is also down like that. So then, once you're making sure you're doing all that, volume switch down, power switch down, put it back over the DS, and it should just kind of fall on. Sometimes it'll snap like that. That's good. Sometimes it takes some force, but you can clamp it shut. So now I'm going to get this one screw in. It's this small Phillips head. I'm going to get the battery on and test. L button. Cool. A. Yep. B. Yep. Y. And then X. So we can see it's all working great. D-pad. Right. Down. Left. Up. If you'd like to try this out on your own, go right ahead. It's a very, very simple job. If you want your DS Lite fixed, but you don't want to do it yourself like this, then I actually have a repair service where I do that for you. It is on my website, retrorevolution.shop. Just take a visit. You'll see the listing, and I would be more than happy to fix up your DS for you. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider subscribing since it really helps out the channel. Have a great day, guys.